Hey Danielle, how's it going?
Awesome. How are you, Jeff?
I'm doing well. It's been a long time since I've had you on the pod, so appreciate you coming on again.
Yes, thank you for having me. Lots of growth in between.
So today I'm joined by Danielle Kaetzer. She's the VP of Revenue Operations at Betterworks. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about what's under your remit over at Betterworks.
Yeah, so revenue operations at Betterworks looks over the operational efficiency, effectiveness of not just our sales teams, but also our marketing teams and our customer success teams. So how are we truly operating throughout that customer journey from first or maybe unknown touches with Betterworks, all the way through sales engagement, closed one, and how are we best servicing our customers and making them happy and hopefully renewing year after year.
Now, I remember you telling me that in your last gig, it was very focused on customer renewals, expansions, kind of a more of a post-sale focus. I'd love to learn a little bit about, that era of your career, like post-sale focus, and then kind of move into where you're at today. Is it still post-sales focus or is it primarily acquisition at the time?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, prior company, a lot of focus on, making our customers happy, making our customers famous, figuring out cross sells. So, it was also a product that had a lot of different avenues for cross sells and upsells. So we could have been selling that product into different departments at larger enterprise companies. The product development also came out where is a market research company, and we had primarily been supporting one element of market research around product development. And then over the years there, we also had a lot of awesome support for your advertising effectiveness as well. So not only you're thinking about kind of go to market, but your top of funnel ideation of a product through the creation of it to the launch, but also how are your dollars being spent on how you launch that in form of advertising, shelf placement, all of that coming back in terms of revenue. So lots of cool opportunities for expansion and cross sell there. We also had a much more established customer base at this previous company, which for us, bringing in new logos, you always want to be bringing in new logos. You need to, keep growing and keeping that baseline where it is. But for us, our bigger growth opportunities really were with our existing customer base and, finding like instead of focusing, we had MQLs and whatnot for that acquisition side of things, but we actually took a lot of those acquisition operational tactics and figured out how we could implement that in our CS team. So not just MQLs on the front end of the funnel, but coming back around, I guess like bow tie now, right? Would be CSQLs. So as our CS reps, they build that relationship, they get a lot more conversational and I think a lot more in-depth value conversation from the customers, and they can uncover, oh, hey, this department actually really loved what we did with this product and they want to evaluate it. I can pass that back to my account manager for a commercial opportunity. So we took a lot of those kind of acquisition thoughts and processes and figured out where could we implement that back into the customer side of things as well.
That's awesome. So a couple of things that come to mind. So post sale, I typically think of customer onboarding and then value realization as quickly as possible. But to have it come full circle where you have these CS qualified leads round robin right back to the top of funnel, I'm sure that dropped customer acquisition cost tremendously. Now, was there a thought working with sales that the motion was land and expand? And then if so, was the conversation on who owns the conversation? Is it sales? Is it CS? Like, was that a battle that was picked on?
Yeah, for sure. I think like any new go-to-market handoff you're creating, there's definitely some of that healthy friction up front where, oh, so this company had evolved into that. We had an acquisition team, account management team, and a CS team. We had had enough customers and expansion opportunity to really separate out that commercial need to an account management dedicated team. So if you think about maybe some challenges you have when you're working with SDRs and AEs on the acquisition side of things, it was a very similar kind of friction to your point of like jobs to be done on the CS with AM side of things. CS, you're not supposed to, you don't know how to talk, have commercial conversations, and money is my thing to talk about, and just really it was a lot of education on the CS team of similar things again on discovery conversations. So how do you ask discovery questions that might not feel as natural as some of the value playbooks you're walking through, right? How do you identify that aha moment and compelling event when you are having a QBR or you're one of your monthly touch bases that says, hey, there is another commercial opportunity here. I should get over to the account manager. And how are you effectively communicating that back to the account manager so they trust that it's an opportunity they should prioritize? So there's a lot of focus on education to the CS, on proper discovery, and we made sure in that CSQL workflow, which took the technology process and people together, that there was proper notes that they had to fill out that really identified why they thought this was a compelling commercial event. Then that would alert our account managers. And we had, similar to, again, launching MQLs on the acquisition side, we had feedback sessions. So bi-weekly checking in, hey, we've had these CSQLs come over, these five progressed, these two didn't. Why? What went on here? It looks like you declined them. Was that a quality issue, a timing issue? So really having that feedback bring together the partnership. At first those feedbacks were a bit of the friction. Account managers being like, well, CS, where it's just throwing bogus things over. I don't have the time to spend on those. I don't trust that they know what they're doing. Okay, so again, putting that back into education and enablement for the CS around those specific concerns. And then communication is the top. So like ensuring that AEs knew we were doing that with the CS team. We weren't just lobbing these over the wall and hoping they were doing the right thing. And vice versa, making sure CS understood what the AMs are actually looking for to say, hey, these are a compelling event that's worth me getting on the sales conversation.
That's amazing. So not only are you setting up processes, but you're also training the team, giving them the enablement in order to be successful with those conversations. Because I've worked with plenty of CS teams where the conversation is all about customer value and impact, but talking about money is always kind of a hard thing, right? You don't necessarily want to bring it up because if you wanted to be in sales, you would have gone in sales, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't actually have those conversations. Okay, so let's talk about acquisition focused revenue
Yeah.
operations more on the top of funnel and in sales. So you're now at Betterworks, and you mentioned to me that your focus is now, on the acquisition side. Tell me a little bit about, that mindset shift from, where you were with renewals and expansions over to, really driving that top line.
Yeah, it was definitely something that I don't think is as obvious when you're going through an interview process. So it's something I really discovered in probably my first 2 weeks of doing my listening to understand conversations and my deep dive with different stakeholders on all three of those teams I support. So I sit on both sales leadership team and marketing leadership team. I have a CS ops person that sits with the CSLT and make sure that's my eyes and ears there. And I kept sitting on marketing leadership team meetings and I was like, hey, doesn't sound like we're really doing a lot around customer communications. We talk a lot about this top of funnel. And the reality is when you dig in, there's a couple things that will, at least what I've discovered at companies I've come into, help me understand where I need to prioritize that acquisition versus post sales. Really taking a look at the customer journey. If one doesn't exist when you get there, even doing a very high level map. I love Miro. I pull that up. And after all my discovery session with stakeholders, I try to map out, okay, what are all the things your team are doing, are responsible for? What are the KPIs you're tracking for? What are the KPIs you're not yet tracking for? So understanding where we have the gaps and the biggest opportunity. Also looking at that product market fit. So the current, Betterworks right now, from a performance management standpoint, we don't have a lot of clear the expansion growth goals around cross sell are not as beneficial to our growth numbers as the acquisition side and getting new logos in, right? So like the strategy around Betterworks right now is let's get more logos in, get more customers in. We have a strong retention side of things. We have a value outcome framework we are working on with our customers on the post-sale side of things, but on the getting those logos in was where we really needed a little bit more strategy. We needed some more connective tissue across the teams. So we had, a lot of our marketing tactics were very tactical. So a lot of the demand gen activities were let's get through this next webinar, let's get through this next event. And then we have this paid ad over here. It may or may not connect into the theme of this webinar we're hosting next week, right? So it was a clear understanding that we had an opportunity for, again, that connected tissue, that connected throughput storytelling between marketing to sales. We also just did a major investment in our sales leadership team and what we're rebuilding around our sales team for that acquisition side of things. So understanding again, jobs to be done for our SDR teams versus our AE team. And where do each of those teams need to be spending time? How do we get our SDR teams and AE teams working well together? And aligning playbooks, that's an ongoing project, I would say right now, is really understanding, okay, our marketing playbook to SDR playbook to AE playbook. How do we, again, have that connective tissue through? So that's where RevOps has been spending a lot of time. And that comes down to the people involved. Again, jobs to be done. Are people clear on what their roles and responsibilities are? Are they clear on what they're being held accountable for? So are metrics visible and easily understandable, and what technology they're using. So across the board throughout that process, technology plays a huge part. It is not where you start, but it is what supports your success throughout. And then also, again, back to the enablement and understanding all of how that comes together.
So let's dive into the tech stack a little bit, right? So you probably inherited, you have inherited some technology. I'm curious, how you assess like what's working, what's not working, and ultimately which pieces or capabilities you've brought in to move the organization to where you want it to go going forward.
Yeah, so first things I typically look at are, okay, what is the whole tech stack? Um, it's funny, some of the things come together very fast, and then 2 months into the job, you're kind of like, oh, didn't know we had that tool. Cool. I'll add it to my ecosystem map, right? So I tend to start to map out what are all the different systems we have? Are they fit for purpose? So taking a step back, did we have a purpose when we bought that technology? A lot of growth size companies don't necessarily have an initial goal of why they're buying a tool. It's really, hey, I don't have this in my tech stack. Sounds really good. Or my investors think we should have this. Or my board members were mentioning we should be doing something with this. So we brought in, what's the best of the best out there. Doesn't always fit the maturity of your team. It doesn't always fit to that point the goals you're trying to drive with those teams. So that's the first thing I look at. We had a pretty, I'm going to mention actual tech names.
That's up to
That-
you. It's totally up to
so,
you.
we had a pretty souped up Zoom info ring lead situation going on for enrichment, prospecting, lots of automation and normalization. And there was a lot built out by people that were no longer here, not a lot of documentation. When I started digging in with the reps, the data quality was a big concern. Um, Transparency of how that data was even getting stamped on their accounts or contacts was a big concern. Our routing was taking, I have a pretty bright team. I'm really proud of my ops team, but it was taking them a whole afternoon every time, like if a new SDR joined or someone left to reroute all these territory routing. So it was, and our team was not that big. So our team was about 20 SDRs and AEs, maybe even a little lower actually when I started. So I just evaluated that was 150K plus on my tech stack that was a bit more complex than we needed, wasn't fit for purpose. If you think about why you want enrichment and prospecting tools and automation, you want trust, you want data quality, and you want transparency. So I went back to, I've loved lean data for ease of setting up your routing. I think it's really flexible. It gives that transparency. It's easy to audit when things go the right way or don't go the way you expected them to go when you first build those routings. And then looked at also Cognism and we upgraded our 6sense. We'd had 6sense for the ABM side and the predictive, but we didn't have the sales intelligence. And so 6sense isn't always on the contact side is bigger breath. It's more focused on the company level enrichment, and then Cognism for that outbounding prospecting piece. It knocked about $75,000 off of our budget by moving to that. But it also, what it did was simplified how my team managed those tools. It added, again, transparency to the reps where they actually know where the data is coming from, where it's being enriched from. We had a bit more, um, you know, buy-in on those things. I think in a world of prospecting and data and enrichment, it's an ever evolving world. So that's something I don't think I'll ever stop evaluating. But that was like the first big priority for us here.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I just think about tools as enabling capabilities, and you talked about playbooks, right? So when you have these capabilities, you use them to run the plays because now your team is, they have a foundation, they have the skill set to run. So I'm curious about these playbooks that you're talking about. You mentioned handoffs, right, from marketing to sales, sales to from SDRs to sales. But playbooks to me are more nuanced, which is like let's run a closed loss play, let's run a targeted takeover campaign against a takeout competitor. Let's run a campaign for this particular use case or messaging. I'm curious about how you're enabling those specific playbooks for like the sales organization.
Yeah, so we've done very targeted. So we have a big core functionality of our product is goal setting. So think of OKR philosophy and structure. We call it goals and milestones. And so we've done competitive type plays where one was actually like a competitor end of lifing. So having a really marketing and sales driven kind of ABM campaign on, I think we had 200 customers that we are aware of this product that fit into our target too.
Hmm.
I think that's another really important thing um, building into the technology and plays is having that strong understanding of who's target and who's non-target. So that's an idea of what we've done for specific plays and seen positive results from. The other types of plays we're putting in place right now are what I call kind of that throughput storytelling from marketing to sales. So as we're sending MQLs to the SDR team, it's not a one size fits all. So we are running four separate thematic marketing nurture campaigns that right now at the basic are email marketing, but we'll start to encompass into our paid and whatnot to really drive that scoring and engagement up. And so as folks MQL with one of those themes, they'll go into an outreach sequence that's tied into that theme. So ideally, when the SDR is following up, it's a little bit more warm and connected into the content or whatnot that that person was already engaging with. So if it is employee engagement as one of their topics they're excited about or management skills, ideally the SDR is also following up and continuing that same story from the content through to hopefully drive a little bit better re-engagement from those MQLs that are not just like raising their hand and saying, please talk to me now.
Cool. I think that so two things. The end of life competitor, right? Like Steel Brick, for example, CPQ as is an end of life event for like folks in the CPQ space. So you have this compelling event, which you can then start building a list and start driving. That requires strong enrichment, and then also if you reach out first, you might have the advantage of being a first mover and building kind of like plant flag and the brand in the prospect's mind. The second one is interesting because when you think about it, it's really setting the context for the team appropriately. And when you have that context, you can then, run forward with that immediately. So when you think about sales process and performance and consistency, I'm thinking about KPIs, enablement, what kind of new metrics or unobserved metrics that the team wanted to have that you started bolting into place with the team?
Yeah, I think maybe not totally wanted to have, but one that was missing for me. I'm a big quality over quantity person. And so coming in, we have our metrics for our SDR team were meetings completed and pipeline added. There wasn't a lot we were looking at for the metric that actually shows how successful they're being with that, right? It was celebrating a rep that, is at the top of the leaderboard for meetings completed in a quarter, but not really highlighting the fact that that person is also at the bottom of the leaderboard for meetings to pipeline conversion. So it's actually been more introducing those quality outcome type metrics, so that we can actually put better coaching back into play for those reps. Because when I first got here, right, we were celebrating that top leaderboard group for having the top completed meetings. That's excellent, but not understanding what was going wrong with our pipeline trending, not going in the same direction. So it's understanding, okay, or who are you targeting with these meetings? Are you meeting with the right people? Are you meeting with the right people at the right time? So certain things we didn't have before that we introduced. We have an ICP fit score. So it's not just this is target versus non-target because of the geo industry company size, but not only are those firmographics in Target, but they also have compelling events going on in their ecosystem. So we're using Clay to pull in a bunch of non-traditional compelling events, things like that map to compelling events that someone would look for performance management. So acquisitions and mergers, big changes in employee per revenue, up or down, the things that would indicate maybe they're going to need to prioritize some performance initiatives. So we put that back into the score. So it's not only looking at someone who's the right size company in the right location with the right industry, but we're also telling you based on their own intent, you should be prioritizing these. And then we also overlay the 6 Sense actual intent scores. So we really give them that more fine-tuned target market to go after. That was a metric we previously were saying, hey, you have this territory, go at it. So really getting a targeted approach. I think we could still even fine tune that a little further, but crawl, walk, run, right? We've had 2 quarters now of ICP fit score, and we've seen our last quarter, everything that closed was an ICP fit score of 8 or above. Our highest commit already at the beginning of Q3, where we just started Q3 in September, are all high ICP fit scores. So early on for actual validation, but initial correlation is looking positive that that's a metric that we should be incorporating into all our prospecting, should get back into marketing, also targeting plans too.
Okay, I love that. So you're setting up kind of a radar intent signals, even before you get it from a third-party data provider like 6sense. You're actually building your own signals. I think that's very cool. You may even get to the prospect before they're even aware that they need the solution, which is amazing.
Oh.
So I always end the show with this. I always ask folks like, what's one piece of advice that you'd like to leave for the go-to-market community?
Oh, get really close to your customer journey. If you haven't done one yet, it is gold, especially for go-to-market operations, but also the leaders in each of the go-to-market functions. Um, we just did this exercise, and we had post-sales leaders that thought things were pretty uh, great and didn't need much focus. And it highlighted some really interesting low-hanging gaps that, we can put some quick process and playbooks to help solve and potentially get even better on retention scores. So, although we talked a lot about focusing on acquisition, that customer journey is worth the time to sit there and put down. It doesn't have to be a super detailed thing. There's plenty of templates out there. Work with ChatGPT or Claude to get a template if you don't know where to start. But really take a focus on what are the stages, what is your buyer going through in those stages, who are the players in each of the stages, and what are the technology overlay. Do you have an idea of what success looks like? And then you're going to start to quickly be able to prioritize where you should be focusing and should be the best revenue drivers throughout that.
Awesome. Now, for those who want to connect with you and learn more about Betterworks, where would you direct them to?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Danielle Kaetzer, might be Danielle Marquis Kaetzer. Uh, trying to do that new married life evolution so that I don't lose my old network. But yeah, Danielle Kaetzer should find me at Betterworks on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Danielle.
Thank you, Jeff.